The purpose of this book is to help you to develop wisdom in time for you to take advantage of its benefits. What we're going to do in this chapter is have a look at our vehicles of expression that allow us to experience and express our consciousness here in this space-time rule set. The wonders of the dense physical body are many times taken for granted, but sometimes we need to stop and let it in just how intricate and complex is this marvellous creation. I was hoping to have a separate chapter on the field of play, but the vehicles of expression are so intertwined with the field of play, our physical, emotional and mental plane, that on reflection it's better to incorporate them together into one chapter. Always bear in mind that in this book we're looking at everything from a subjective, metaphysical and a spiritual point of view. In that regard, it's important to realize that everything that we see in the physical world is really a result of light, reflected off the object being observed, entering our eye and registering in our brain as a physical object. Light, however, is not really a part of the dense physical world of dense, liquid and gaseous substance, but is part of the energy field that is the inner cause of everything that's physical. So when we see something physical, we really are seeing that through the agency of its energy counterpart. This energy field is known as the etheric plane of reality. So everything is just energy, made up of electrons, protons, neutrons, atoms, and subatomic particles. We are really just an energy field called an etheric body, made up of 7 major centres of force called chakras. These centres can be seen with the utilisation of Kirlian photography. Kirlian photography reveals the etheric counterpart of everything in the physical world that's alive. These 7 centres underpin the endocrine system. We are only conscious and alive because we are a receiver of electromagnetic energies that are distributed throughout our 7 etheric centres. These energies come to us from the Sun, the planets, and from the Earth itself. The energies enter our aura via a minor centre between the shoulder blades, and from there are distributed to the centre at the base of the spine. This centre is called the basic centre, and it has its physical counterpart in the adrenal glands. From there the energy is utilised and distributed via the nervous system to the muscular system, impelling us into some form of physical activity. If the energy isn't utilised there, it goes from the basic centre to the sacral centre, which has its physical counterpart in the testicles or the ovaries. It is thereby utilised for sexual expression. If not utilised there, it goes to the solar plexus centre, where it impels toward emotional expression via the sympathetic nervous system. These 3 centres are where the majority of people are expressing most of their life energies through physical or sexual expression, or through emotional expression such as fear, worry, anxiety, anger, self-pity, and various forms of self-punishment and self-sabotage. We don't need to spend a lot of time documenting the physical functions of the body with the digestive system eliminative system, circulatory system, nervous system, endocrine system, immune system, and the lymphatic system. These functions have been documented very well by medical science. What we will focus on in this chapter is the utilization of the energies by those on the crest of the wave of evolution who are not just expressing their life energies through the 3 lower centers below the diaphragm. All of you who read this book fit into that category. When we learn to express our physical, sexual, and emotional energies in a balanced and rhythmic fashion, we have a chance to direct our life energies to the higher centers, to the throat center, where it's utilized for creative thinking. As we develop ourselves through our myriad of lifetimes, we start to express love in a less selfish way and start to realize more and more that we are part of a spiritual group. It's at this point that we start to activate our heart center through the expression of selfless love. As we grow more and more spiritually, life after life, we step off the path of ordinary evolution onto the path of hastened evolution, called initiation. I'll cover more on this subject in later chapters. From this point on, we begin to express our life energies more and more through the throat center in creative thinking and the heart center in selfless love and love for the group. This then sets up a vibrational rhythm between these 2 centers which activates the brow center between the eyes. This is the center that deals with the development of higher mental faculties, called the higher mind, and the next level of life expression, called the intuition. The higher mind comes into play toward the final stages of a person's growth. Hundreds of lifetimes have been experienced over a period of the last 4 million years to get to this stage of development. The higher mind allows us to develop a synthetic understanding about any particular subject, such as law, economics, philosophy, one of the many branches of science, art, music, commerce, industry, business, education with its many divisions, and politics. Most of these will involve a university education or advanced adult education. Once we've developed a synthetic understanding of a particular field of specialization, we force the development of the intuition, which brings the next centers, the brow center and the head center, into action. The brow center is activated by the utilization of the higher mind and the intuition. It has its physical counterpart in the pituitary gland at the base of the brain. All of this activity with the centers above the diaphragm, the throat center, heart center, and the brow center, bring in a lot of extra energy into the person's body from the planets, the sun, and the earth. Awareness and consciousness are identical terms, which means that the person has a greater capacity for awareness by the utilization of the higher mind and the intuition. This means quite simply that the person has an expanded consciousness. In other words, they are more awake, aware, and alive. They have a high intelligence, and depending on their horoscope and the planetary energies, they'll become more and more involved with their group. This will generally be via their career, profession, or business. At this point in their growth and development, they're in the process of developing a greater understanding about their particular field of expertise. Understanding always brings with it an ever-expanding sense of responsibility to share that expertise and understanding with others. This brings the centre at the top of the head into play, called the head centre, because the person finds it more and more necessary to control and direct the increasing energies that are coursing through his or her body. That means the person is utilising the faculty of the spiritual will. It doesn't mean that the person's life will be categorised as a spiritual life. He or she may not even have a belief or understanding about the spiritual life at all. Most times, if their focus is upon science, law, economics or business, they'll generally not be spiritual at all. That doesn't mean that they are not living a very powerful spiritual life, however. Regardless of their spiritual beliefs, they have attained to a high level of spiritual development. They find themselves using less and less of their energies in the three lower centres. Their life focus is upon the centres above the diaphragm in terms of the utilisation of their life energies. They find it more rewarding, because of their level of understanding, to express their ever-expanding energies through creative thinking, selfless love, and love for the group and the higher mind and intuition. All of this success draws forth and requires an ever-increasing expression of willpower and responsibility. This type of energy automatically activates the head centre at the top of the head, which utilises the pineal gland at the root of the nose. So there you have it, a basic understanding about the vehicle of expression that we all utilise to express our life energies. How we express these energies in each lifetime will be determined by the planetary configurations in our horoscope. If our focus is upon one of the more material forms of expression, law, science, commerce, economics, industry, business, etc., we will generally not be oriented toward the spiritual side of life. That doesn't mean that our life is not a very spiritual life, however. There really is no such thing as a non-spiritual life. That is an oxymoron. Everything is spiritual. A blade of grass is spiritual. A bird is spiritual. All animals are spiritual. Nothing exists in the universe that is not an expression of the life of God. God is all that is, so in that respect, everything is spiritual. The whole world is a giant spiritual classroom, where all of us are faced with tests on a day-by-day basis. An atheistic scientist who develops a deep understanding of electronics or computers is using the same heart, throat and head centres as a religious leader who has a degree in theology. They are both utilising the faculties of the soul. They are both utilising the centres above the diaphragm. The faculties of the personality are the conscious mind, emotions, and the physical/etheric body. The faculties of the soul are the higher mind, intuition, and spiritual will. We also have, as part of our equipment, to deal with all the contingencies of life here within this space-time rule set, that is our spiritual classroom, a subconscious mind and an unconscious mind. I'll go into more detail about these two powerful allies in the next chapter, where we'll look at the functionality of these planes of consciousness that make up our field of play.